This story began with many demonic dragons circling over the castle. They broke through the castle wall to capture it and be at the head of the possessions of this kingdom. But the hero Vermouth and his 4 comrades in arms headed to the Count of Magic Helmet in order to defeat the last demon kings. They defeated 3 of the 5 kings, and now only 2 remain. They enter battle in order to defeat enemies and protect the territory of their kingdom. There are too many demonic dragons. They are fierce and strong, ready to fight with anyone in order to take over the territories of the castle. But Vermouth was not embarrassed by their number. He used his magic blade against them. A bright light emanated from his sword, which destroyed the dragons around him. He was nicknamed the Great Vermouth for his courage and ability to quickly find solutions to situations. Nevertheless, his comrades did not stand still. They also moved to fight the dragons. Her name is Wise Sena. The girl's magic is perfect against so many monsters. She uses her magic very effectively. Her magic style looks great. While the rest of the team fights the dragons, Saint Anis blesses the fallen souls. The monsters will not wait for her prayers to end. One of the dragons runs from behind directly towards Anissa. This did not stop her from continuing her prayers, and she immediately and effectively defeated the monster. Another team member defeats the monsters one by one. His name is Fearless Moron. His name speaks for itself. He is not afraid of anyone or anything. The rash Hamel wanted to get ahead of Vermouth in battle. A competitive spirit played within him. He was furious that Vermouth was ahead of him. Hamel has always been jealous of Vermouth. He always called him his rival, but no one took these words seriously. PKP. The boy, looking around, said that there weren't that many monsters left. It seems they have almost dealt with all the monsters. Suddenly, Hamel shouted for Vermouth to turn around because danger was approaching him, but it was already too late. He covered it with his body, sacrificing himself to save his comrade. Something pierced his body. It happened so quickly that Vermouth did not even understand how his comrade was wounded by something. He did not expect such an act from someone who envies and competes with him. It was a monster that wounded him with its long limb that extended from his arm. It didn't take long for a huge wound in the middle of his chest to appear. He fell to the ground after the creature pulled out its limb. The dragon felt his superiority over them and began to mock them. After all, he is the first who managed to wound one of Vermouth's comrades. Vermouth approached the enemy creature with such great speed that the monster missed with its long limb, which it released at the boy. Now the creature does not feel its superiority in the same way. It did not expect the boy to be able to dodge the limb. A very bright light emanated from his sword, which filled the entire room, effectively swinging it. He killed the dragon. The rest of the team, as soon as they saw that Gamel was wounded, immediately moved towards him. While his team sat with the wounded, Vermouth stood aside and was sad. He couldn't watch his comrade leave this world. Vermouth didn't want him to die this way. After all, there was still so much to go through together. Hamel answered him that it was a worthy death to die for the great hero of Vermouth. In the last minutes of his life, he regretted that he had not been sincere with his comrades. With his last breath, stretching out his hand, he told Vermouth that he was obliged to kill everyone. In response, he swore to him in the name of the hero that he would destroy all the demon kings. Gamel decided to say goodbye to everyone and finally say a few words to everyone. He asked Anissa to pray for him. Moron that he was the bravest and most fearless warrior he knew, Sena confessed his love. For a long time he was afraid of this, but now is the moment when he can tell her that he likes her. In a rage, stepping on the book, he said that he did not say that, and he never liked it. No matter how many times he read this strange nonsense, he began to shake every time. Hamel did not understand who could have written this book. He is angry with the author of this little book for embellishing the moments. Moreover, they were all given cool nicknames. Great, wise, holy, fearless. But it was he who was called reckless. He was at a loss as to who could do this to him. The same goes for his team. Why did they turn a blind eye to such a stupid moment in this book? They didn't even bother to defend the honor of their brother in arms. He had doubts that they could accept the possibility of Hamel being reincarnated with all the memories of the past. He is the one who died 300 years ago during the war against the 5 demon kings. Walking around the house, he looked at the paintings that depicted the heroes from his team. He realized that he had reincarnated into the body of one of the heroes' descendants. It was a teenager, Eugene Lionhart, age 13. In addition to his first wife, Vermouth had a huge number of mistresses. The boy does not remember Vermouth chasing women's skirts. Perhaps his views changed with age, which is quite natural for people. Only children from his first wife are considered direct descendants of Vermouth's family. Even with the common surname Lionhart, Eugene is considered to only be from a side branch. Children from other families are prohibited from practicing magic and using real swords until the blood inheritance ritual. That's why the boy uses a wooden one. But these are the last days that he uses this toothpick. The boy has a very impressive martial art. Although he uses this ordinary sword, it looks amazing. His father came into his room. He was upset that Eugene had ruined the scarecrow again. The boy was not like the others. His body of a 13-year-old teenager looked muscular and sculpted as if he were 25, or even more years old. His father did not understand how such a body could belong to a 13-year-old teenager. In truth, having fought him, he doubted his victory. Eugene was his own son, but sometimes he frightened him because his speech and mannerisms were not at all teenage. There is not a drop of innocence in his frightening eyes. Although he was left without a mother when he was very young, there was not a day when he was sad. The father called the boy a blacksmith and a mediocrity. He believed that his martial arts skills and constant training would not be useful to him in life. The boy did not understand how his father could take money from him for his antics with broken equipment. After all, it's trash. It would be worth punishing him, but he could not raise a hand against his father. The father decided to give the boy a severe reprimand for handling the equipment this way. By the way, the blood inheritance ritual will take place tomorrow, in which the boy will be able to take part. To put it mildly, the boy did not like this Lionhart tradition, which is held every decade. All children between 10 and 15 years of age from the main and other branches. They gather at the home of the main family to participate in the ritual. And then the competition begins for the right to bear the surname Lionhart. But unlike other families, direct descendants are allowed to train magic and use real weapons. This is only to ensure that these weaklings from the main branches do not lose at the hands of children from other branches. Eugene's father doubted that this boy could be his son. After all, he is so talented that it was difficult to discern his own blood in him. He understood that if he had been born into the main family, it would have been much easier for him in martial arts. May he be as mediocre as his father, he wouldn't have to feel the discrepancy between the real world and his abilities. Suddenly, the boy noticed that his father was not feeling well. He asked if he was okay, to which the father gave a short answer, yes. But Eugene didn't like such a short answer because he understood that something was wrong. Surely he thought about what a terrible father he turned out to be. His father came up to him, grabbed his shoulders, and said to Eugene, "Never cross the path of the children from the main family. No matter how gifted you are, you will not be able to cope with them. From early childhood, they learn magic and train with real swords." The boy laughed and replied that he would not. He found it funny that his father underestimated his skills. It's just a bunch of little kids. He was confident that he could handle everyone. 3 children from the main family, as well as 6 from the regular family, take part in the ritual of blood inheritance. The 3 main family includes the son of the first wife of the head of the family and twins from his mistress. With the exception of 2 children from the respected main branches, everyone else is not that important. While training on a scarecrow, he imagined his victory over the boys from the main family. The boy was ready for battle and as confident as possible. Now they will find out how good the descendants of Vermouth are. The carriage was delivered to the main house. The father and his 4 maids escorted the boy to the solemn event of the blood inheritance ritual. The boy remembered that while still being Hamel in a past life, he considered himself a real genius. Since childhood, he had no difficulties in mastering new skills. He developed much faster than his peers. But there were greater warriors who were more famous than Hamel. It was the great Vermouth, with whom he constantly had misunderstandings. Vermouth told the boy that he could become much stronger with a little more effort. Hamel responded by asking him, "Can't you see how much effort he puts in?" He gave it 100%. Having added this with words, did he think that not everyone was given the same talent as him? Hamel was not a genius, unlike Vermouth, who could truly be called one. Being gifted in both sword and magic, he was nicknamed the God of War. He was a duke in his native land, the Empire of Kiel, but decided to renounce the title. Until the very end, he was exalted as a warrior. As for the rest of the weapons team, why, Sena, born in the kingdom of magicians, Arat, she became the youngest master in the history of the magic tower. Saint Anissa, this woman was considered the holiest person in the entire sacred empire of Eurus. There is even a scripture describing her teachings. Fearless moron, unthinkably, this pumped-up nugget founded a kingdom named after him, and they all lived happily until their death. He wondered, angry. So why is the Demon King still alive? Vermouth promised that he would kill all the Demon Kings. He was angry with him because the kings were still free. Gamel died in the demonic castle of imprisonment, and immediately after his death, this white-haired man entered into a contract with the Demon King. Thanks to this agreement, the war with demons came to an end. And even after 300 years, peace reigns in these parts. But the boy was not alone in the carriage. He was asked if he was worried about something, adding that upon arrival, the boy will have a very difficult time, since he began to worry while still in the carriage. The boy, out of politeness, decided to thank Lord Gordon for the instruction. The Lord warned of the arrival of the main house of the Lionhart family on the property. "But that doesn't mean it's time to go out," he said. "It was still a long way to the estate." The boy did not like this. He did not understand why the Lord was boasting about it so much. Eugene wondered, isn't it too problematic to govern such a large area? The Lord replied that there were several portals in the area, so everything was fine. Thinking, he asked why then they were traveling in this carriage. His other self said that they were not given permission to use the portals. And then they arrived at the main house, where the boy was welcomed from the very beginning. Eugene saw the welcoming ceremony. He knew that this ceremony was not for his sake. There were many flags with the coat of arms of a lion. They were a symbol of the great Vermouth. Putting his hand on his heart, the boy remembered that only descendants from the main family were allowed to wear the coat of arms of a lion on the left side of the chest. The Lord told him that they had arrived first, and he would show him to the guest house. Eugene was surprised that no one was there yet. The house was huge and very beautiful. It looked like a palace. It had 2 floors and a luxurious tower which consisted of 3 floors. As soon as he entered, he was greeted by a girl. Her name was Nina, and she said she would take care of all his needs while he was in this house. She gave him a bell and told the boy that if he needed anything, he should ring the bell. He was pleased that he was provided with a personal maid. Eugene was curious about how old she was, since she looked quite young, and he asked her a question. The girl replied that she was 16 years old and had just recently graduated. Nina was inexperienced, and he knew that if the inexperienced maid caused any problems, they hoped to place all the blame on him. He didn't understand who needed it, but he might have difficulties. He asked her if she knew when the rest of the family would be there. She replied within the next 4 days. The answer surprised the boy, because he did not think that he would have to spend so much time in this house. Eugene didn't want to waste time, so he asked the maid to take him to the training ground. She was surprised by his request, because usually before such an event, most of the other children were resting. There were children standing in the courtyard of the main house and discussing something. They discussed Eugene and said that he was from a small provincial town located in the west of the empire. They underestimated him, joking that he was much more accustomed to holding a shovel in his hands than swinging a sword. His carriage is also saturated with the smell of vile animal excrement. Eugene may be the same age as them, but they believed that he would have to pay if he broke their equipment. They came up with a cunning plan to harm the boy. But the boy said they wouldn't do that. They'd just give Eugene a warning. They set out in search of Eugene to mock him, while the boy, without wasting his precious time, trained with a spear on the site. Being a gamel, he was never lazy when it came to training. But he understood that in this life, he needed to train much more. However, no matter how much he tormented his body, he was never bothered by illness. And most of the wounds healed literally within a day. The abilities of the body in whose veins flows the blood of vermouth, exceeded all expectations. While the boy was training, his servants watched him. She was shocked. She was surprised that even with sandbags and a heavy spear in his hands, he was able to move so deftly. While she was admiring Eugene, the same two teenagers came up and asked her a question. What was Eugene doing there? Nina wondered what brought Mr. Tsane and Ms. Kill to the training ground, but he ignored her question and asked what Eugene was doing. Their dialogue was seen by Eugene, and he asked Tsin, "Is he really so blind that he can't see how he trains?" Then he insulted him. He was surprised how this hillbilly dared to talk to him like that. Sil asked her brother if he would leave it like this and endure humiliation. His face changed in an instant. He was seriously angry. Eugene's expression offended Tsin, and he demanded an apology, to which the boy responded emotionlessly and asked for forgiveness. But this did not satisfy Mr. Tsane. The apology was not sincere. He told him to bow before him, to which Eugene replied, "Aren't they the same age?" Eugene asked why he should bow to his friend. Tsane did not like the fact that he called him his friend, and he only told him that he bears the same last name does not make him equal in status. The sister reminded him of their evil plan, and they wanted to humiliate him by having him clean the carriage in which he arrived. Tsane shouted to Eugene to go and scrub the carriage, which was probably saturated with the smells of the animals he was herding. Then Eugene looked towards his personal maid and asked, "Can she fulfill his request?" She replied that she would do anything. Then the boy told her to go and clean the carriage in which he had arrived. Nina did not expect this. She was confused. She had never been given such instructions before. Tsane was angry and did not understand how the boy dared to shift responsibilities to a servant when he ordered him to do it personally. He asked the boy why he didn't respect his orders. "He is Lionhart himself." Eugene began to mock him as he introduced himself in response, adding to this that he is glad to meet you. Sister Tsina also decided to introduce herself as a sign of respect for the boy. The Lord realized that since the boy ignored his orders, he would no longer be so merciful to him. Looking around, Tsai noticed a wooden sword lying there, and he decided to pick it up. He decided to challenge Eugene to a duel because he insulted him. Eugene found it funny that he was challenged to a duel because he understood that victory would be his. He again called him his friend and said, "You shouldn't pronounce the word friend so rashly," asking to be left alone, as he understood that defeating him in a duel would cause him problems that he didn't want. Tsane told the boy that since he was afraid of him, then he would have to bow to him and start begging for forgiveness. Eugene replied that he was not afraid of him at all. He just did not want to apologize or participate in the duel. Tsane still thought that the boy was afraid of him, and he said that it seemed that his parents did not explain to him the meaning of the word honor. He was confused when he saw that the boy was taking off his weights to fight him in a duel. Eugene told him to throw down the gauntlet if he challenged him to a fight. Seeing what heavy bags the boy was working with, Tsina was shocked. It seemed to him that he simply decided to show off by putting on these weights. He understood that there was no turning back, since he himself had issued a challenge. If he backs down, Sil will laugh at him for the rest of his days. Taking out this red handkerchief, Tsane thought that he needed to defend his honor. Having officially called him by name, and he threw this red handkerchief and challenged him to a duel. While the scarf fell, Eugene removed the last weight. The boy accepted the challenge. He was completely ready for battle. There was not an iota of fear on his face. Before he even had time to approach the boy, Tsane received a strong blow from a spear and fell to the ground. Approaching him, he said that it was the shortest fight in his life. His sister was excited by what she saw and immediately ran to him to find out how he was feeling. Tin vomited, and to put it mildly, he did not feel well. Sil went to defend her brother, calling the boy a coward, and began accusing him of hitting with a brace and the duel being unfair. The boy asked, "What kind of cowardice are we talking about? According to the rules, the duel begins the moment the scarf touches the ground, and it is his own fault that he lost his vigilance." Kill agreed with the boy, but she thought he was training using magic. Eugene replied that he did not use magic, because children from other families are forbidden to master the power of magic before the blood inheritance ceremony. But the girl called him a liar and said that without mana he would not have been able to swing such a heavy weapon so easily. And his attack was so fast that even if she was fully prepared, her brother would never have repelled it. The boy smiled because he was pleased to hear this. He told her that she needed to be more careful. She told him that he allowed himself too much. But this did not surprise him, because he knew about it. Eugene explained to Tsin that when his spear almost caught Tsin, he instinctively jerked back in an attempt to reduce the damage. Considering that he hardly had any actual battle experience, this was surprising. And he has great potential, but he is too far from being called a descendant of Vermouth. As soon as Tsane stood up, he called the boy a coward and asked how he dared to do such a thing. Eugene said that he and his sister are very similar. They even speak the same. And he added, telling Tsane, if he considers himself a worthy descendant of the Lionhart family, then he should accept defeat with honor. He wondered if maybe he should have been a little gentler with him, doing something similar to a member of the main family. He knew that he was unlikely to get away with it. A man was catching up with him and wanted to address him. Turning around, Eugene saw that there was no lion crest on his chest. The boy assumed that this was a simple knight. However, once you recognize its strength, it looks impressive. Tsane immediately went to complain to this unknown young man. He said that he challenged the boy to a duel and lost, and his guardian did not like this, who wanted to figure out what was going on. He apologized for not introducing himself right away. His name is Kizar, and he is the one in charge of training Mr. Tsane. Eugene also introduced himself in response and said that he came to the ceremony from the city of Gaidol. Kazar heard about this city, or rather about the family that lived there. It was Eugene's family. He knew his father. He was wondering what happened and why the duel happened. Eugene said that Tsai insulted the personal dignity of his family, after which he challenged him to a duel. And he said that his father did not teach Eugene honor, then calling him a coward. But Tsane began to deny this. This means that he insulted not only the boy, but also his father. "Isn't that enough to accept a duel?" Eugene asked. Kazar agreed with the boy. This was a very reasonable reason for accepting the duel. The person in charge of the boy insisted that he first take care of all the wounds and only then resolve the issue of the duel. They said goodbye to Eugene and hoped to see each other soon. After such a workout, Eugene was hungry. He took more of everything, since he needed to regain his strength. While he was eating, a servant approached him. Eugene was surprised that she returned so quickly. Nina came to announce that young masters Deacon, Hans, and Jules will arrive tomorrow at noon. The other masters, Gargis and Desira, will arrive through the portal this evening. The boy replied that they would get together earlier than he expected, and he was waiting for the ritual, which would begin very soon. Eugene looked into the sky and told Vermouth that he was going to slap his descendants with cabbage soup. The boy hopes that this will not disappoint him too much. It's not that he himself didn't want to be reborn as his descendant. It was all about reincarnation. Tsain, bowing his head in disappointment, came to tell everything about the duel to his mother. This was the second wife, from the house of Anicilla, and she was not happy that her son challenged a boy from an ordinary family to a duel and lost. Anicilla told the boy to come closer to her as she wanted to talk to him. Then she poked her cane right at the place where Eugene hit, and asked how it happened that he was defeated with one blow. He asked not to poke in that place, as it was unpleasant for him. But she told him to stand still, as she wasn't finished yet. Anicilla turned to Khazar and asked if Eugene really had not mastered magic. He replied that without a doubt, Mr. Gerard's son, young Master Eugene, does not have magic. Then she became interested, and she decided to ask Syl how exactly did her brother lose. The girl said that he took his brother by surprise. Immediately after the duel began, he hit him with a spear. He tried to jerk back, but the spear turned out to be faster. The mother was upset that the duel was ended with just one blow. After the boy tried to ask for forgiveness, she hit him in the face with her palm. Anicilla was perplexed. How could he challenge a boy who does not know magic to a duel, and even in front of children from ordinary families? Very soon his father will arrive for the blood inheritance ceremony. His mother had no idea how to tell him that their son had lost the fight. She was worried that people from other families would mock her. Tsain was very ashamed, and he regretted that he had even given him an invitation to a duel. He asked his mother for forgiveness for this. She told Khazar that if she had the chance, she would have finished him off right there. Alas, he is a grateful knight to her husband, and for him to train Tsain so that he would never lose again. The mother told Khazar to take the boy away. She was very angry with him. After Ching left, she asked Kil to become friends with the boy who won. She didn't understand why her mother was asking for this. Her mother told her that he was strong enough to defeat her brother. If she wanted, she could kill that boy. But then all suspicions will fall on her. If misunderstandings arise in the family, the guardians of family order will come to them. This cannot be allowed. That is why the mother asked the girl to make friends with Eugene. Syl was not against it, and she herself wanted to get to know him better. Perhaps they will become friends. Mother was glad that everything turned out so easily and that she didn't have to persuade the girl. The next day, 3 boys from non-main families arrived at the estate. Eugene wastes no time and spends all his time on the training ground preparing for the ritual. While he was running, his assistant approached him. She must tell him something important. The servant told him that the other 2 had also arrived. They were expected to arrive at night, but they arrived a little earlier. And then the girl reports such important news that patriarchy has also arrived. But the boy was not in the appearance in which one should meet such important people. The assistant said that we needed to go and meet him immediately. She was in a hurry and did not know what to do because Eugene needed to be changed. But they have very little time. The boy told her that he would simply meet the patriarch in this form. After all, they have absolutely no time to change clothes. And then everyone is waiting for the patriarch, the knights line up, and the welcoming ceremony begins. Next to Tsain and Syl stood the second wife of the patriarch, Anitzel. This means that the woman in front of her must be Theonis's first wife. And the boy standing next to her is the eldest son in the main family, and the first contender for inheriting the title. His name was Lord Lionhart. Now, already on the way to the main gate, Gillard will arrive Lionhart. This is the same patriarch. It turns out that behind him should be his younger brother, Keon. The patriarch of the Lionhart family has 2 brothers. The first, Guilford, is already married and lives with his family. The second, Keon, left his native place with Gillard, never getting married, and then both returned only 3 years later. The first wife told the patriarch that it would be great if he warned about his arrival. He asked her why he needed to warn her about coming to his own house. They came to terms with the fact that he did not warn them of his arrival. Approaching Laud, he told him that he was surprised at how quickly he had grown. The patriarch hoped that the boy had also grown in skills. In turn, the young man replied that he was trying to live up to his expectations. Gillard had difficulty recognizing Tsan and Sil due to the fact that they had already grown up. The children were also happy about this meeting. They missed him. The patriarch saw his brother in the crowd. He heard that his son was born, and he was very sorry that he could not be there at such a significant moment. Guilford said that there is no need for an apology. He understands everything and is not upset at all. Gillard also noticed children from other families. He invited them to enjoy their meal at the same table, and then move on to discuss the ritual of blood inheritance. And so children from high families, as well as from simple families, gathered at the refectory table. The two were not present at the welcoming ceremony. So who are they, and what are their names? These are Gajis and Desira. Eugene noticed them. They arrived with the patriarch through the portal. Also, they are not from ordinary families, but from highly respected ones. Sitting at one table, this long-haired guy, looking at Eugene, wondered who this boy was. He thought that only the patriarch and children taking part in the ritual should sit at the table. Sil also did not understand who these two were, and she decided to find out from her father who their guests were. His father had not planned to introduce him before the meal. He wanted to do it later, but since everyone was so interested... This is Roberian. He came from the Red Tower that is located in the kingdom of Erot. Everyone at the table was surprised after he introduced himself. So much so that Eugene choked when he heard this name. The boy knew who it was, since he is the master of the Red Tower. It means that he is a student of Sena. To be more precise, he is a third-generation student. 300 years ago, Sena became the youngest master of the Green Magic Tower in the entire history of the Kingdom of Erot. She not only helped ordinary people, but she also took people from other towers as students. To this day, the Master of the Green Tower and the Master of the Red Tower is Roberian. They consider Sena the Wise to be their great mentor. The boy could not even imagine that he would so soon meet someone related to his old companions. The patriarch turned to Eugene and said that he knew about that situation. His wife told him everything. The boy, in turn, was surprised that he spoke to him. He talked about a duel in which his son insulted the honor of the boy and his father. However, Eugene replied that he did not hold any grudge against Tsan. The patriarch became interested, and he asked the youth, "Is it because he defeated his son in a duel?" But the boy said that the outcome of the duel had no effect on this. If he had been unable to defend his own honor, the blame would have rested solely with him. Gillard liked Eugene's reasoning and told him that he was wiser than his son. Hearing his name from Tsainu's father, he understood that he would now be punished for such an act. The father told his son that he was not ashamed of his defeat. However, he is ashamed that the boy did not realize what he should have done next. The duel was purely his initiative. But even after defeat, he did not have the courage to ask for forgiveness to Eugene. Tsane was speechless. He didn't know what to say. It seems he was ashamed of what he had done. The father said if he dares to call himself a member of the family, then he must have respect not only for himself, but also for those around him. Tsain asked Eugene for forgiveness for his insults. Eugene felt that Tsai was more likely to say the apology out of pressure or obligation than out of true remorse. Gillard asks the question, "Is the boy's daddy Gerard?" And he regrets that he does not know him personally. Eugene replied that it would be strange if they knew each other because they live in a small provincial town. Gillard was interested in the boy's martial arts skills. Were these the merits of training with his father? But these were completely independent trainings. Desiree was surprised that the boy trained on his own without help. Gargus did not understand how the boy defeated Tsain by training alone. The patriarch liked the outcome of events. It looks like this time the inheritance ceremony will be very interesting. The servants begin to serve all sorts of delicacies and goodies to the table. Gillard wasn't sure the dishes would live up to their expectations. He asked everyone to start eating. The feast was coming to an end, and the servants came to clear all the dishes from the table. The reason why the patriarch decided to gather everyone at this table. It lies in the details of the blood inheritance ritual. He was ashamed to admit it, but there was too much inequality in his family patriarchy. The whole process is tailored to the main families. Children from ordinary families are not allowed to train with weapons or practice magic before the ritual. Under such conditions, such children have practically no chance against the youths from the main branch. This year, 3 of his children will participate. However, he believes that it is only fair to watch not only his children, but everyone who bears the Lionhart surname. The purpose of the ritual is to identify a worthy heir to the great vermouth, and it doesn't matter whether he is a child from the main family or an ordinary one. The boy liked these rules. This descendant is much kinder than vermouth. Therefore, the patriarch decided to ask Rebirth for help in carrying out the ritual. Snapping his fingers, Rebirth activated magic and created a hologram, which surprised the children. This year, the ritual will take place in the labyrinth that Rebirth created. Everyone will enter it through different entrances. The main goal is to defeat the boss, who is holed up in the center of the labyrinth. Of course, the surprises didn't end there. Everything is not as easy as it seems. Along the way, they will encounter traps and monsters. However, everything they will see inside is just an illusion. What happens inside is not reality. He warned right away his illusions feel very believable, so it won't be easy. Rebirth's mastery of magic. He realized that it was not for nothing that he was called the Master of the Tower. For this effect, he used not simple magic, but illusory magic, in order to make all the cubes more alive. If one of them defeats the boss, the test will end immediately. At the end of the ritual, everyone will receive their points depending on their achievement. One of the participants wondered what would happen if they couldn't get out of the maze. Rebirth replied that if someone is scared, of course they can wait at the entrance, but then they won't get good scores. Eugene became interested and asked, what will they get after defeating the boss? The patriarch replied that he would allow him to take any item from his family's underground treasury. The boy was delighted with this news. His eyes sparkled with new colors. Now he can get something valuable. Eugene's biggest problem at the moment is choosing an item from the treasury. Walking along the corridor, he met these 2 who were at the feast at the same table with him. They were wondering if the boy was really able to defeat Sane in a duel Lionhart. He answered briefly and left. He didn't have time for stupid talk. They didn't understand why the boy didn't want to have a dialogue with them. Eugene did not want to waste a second of time while others were sleeping. He was training under the night moon. And then his training was interrupted by these 2. He didn't understand what they needed from him. Approaching the boy, Gajis took off his t-shirt, deciding to show off his muscles, telling Eugene that he could touch his muscles, but he decided to refrain from such strange proposals. He did not like that they interfered with his studies. He said that his family has a secret muscle-building potion. This potion accelerates muscle growth depending on the intensity of training. Moreover, it is completely safe. Gajis asked if he was interested in this offer, but the boy didn't understand why this giant was pushing this on him. Desiree interrupted their conversation, saying that this potion could make Eugene grow a beard, and it doesn't depend on gender. She also heard that he used a spear in the battle with Sign, but now he is training with a sword. The boy replied that he uses both a spear and a sword. She laughed back, doubting Eugene's skill. Desiree said she specialized in spears and suggested a friendly duel. He understood that it would be easier for him to deal with her than with this pumped-up piece of meat. Eugene agreed. He himself was interested in how strong people from high-ranking families were. But this thug got in and said that he would be the judge of this fight. Even if it's just sparring, it must be done fairly and according to the rules. The boy thought, Maybe he is a descendant of Moron, and not Vermouth, acts just like him. The fight will begin after Gajis lowers his hand. Desiree told him not to delay this. She told Eugene that she would show him how to wield a spear and that it was not so easy to give in completely to this process. The rules are the one who strikes first wins. The boy reflected the blows one after another, but she never hit. Considering that she doesn't use magic, her skills are quite good, which Eugene appreciated. At the same time, she is very young. She has great potential. Although she was good, the boy understood that she was no match for him, and he could easily cope. He started joking with her that she couldn't get there, but this only angered the girl more and more. He was able to repel all of her attacks without even dodging. She planned to take revenge for this. Desiree used a blow that she was sure the boy couldn't block, but he simply stepped on the spear. In an attempt to pull the spear from under the boy's feet, she forgot something, namely that it is completely open and the boy can strike. Gajis announced Eugene's victory, after which the boy went to rest. Standing over the sleeping boy, he woke him up to offer him something, telling him that he wants to work in the same team. The boy asked Hajis if he really woke him up just for this, but he needed an answer. Eugene said that they will all enter through different passages. How is he going to work together? He had already heard about the rules of the ritual. Although they will start from different points, they will eventually gather at one. The boss is waiting for them in the center of the maze. The twins from the main family will also be on the team. The boy asked him if all he wanted was to join forces to defeat the boss. He answered exactly what was needed. The boy did not think that he would need their help. He believes that he can handle it himself. The girl considers him arrogant, but we have to admit that he is strong. And with his help, they would certainly defeat the boss. Eugene wondered why they were so obsessed with defeating the boss. She said that children from both the main and ordinary families participate in the ritual. Never before in the entire history of this family have ordinary children emerged victorious. But this time, they have every chance. Between the three of them, they will definitely be able to defeat the monster. They didn't understand. Didn't the boy want to defeat the main family? The master of the Red Magic Tower has arrived to perform the ritual. Perhaps her goal is to take Laud as a student. From early childhood, Laud was much more interested in magical books than in physical activity. Thanks to his interest in magic, he was able to study its rich variety. After becoming a student in the Magic Tower, he will have no choice but to leave his family. Meanwhile, Sine and Syl will develop faster and faster. This means that Laud. There is no way Lionhart will be able to inherit the title of patriarch. There is only a small problem, which lies only in the ritual. Her children were always considered only the offspring of her second wife. Only thanks to her perseverance, they were able to gain a foothold in this family. But she could not even think that her son could lose to a boy from the province. She would like this child, named Eugene, to be the first to go through this maze. If he turns out to be strong enough to defeat all other opponents, this will certainly eclipse the shame of Tsoin. 4 days later, the blood inheritance ritual has begun. And so the magician passes on his magic to all the children. He told them that with this magic, they could create weapons for themselves. You need to form a magical sphere, orally imagining a magical weapon in your head. Children are not often given this opportunity to use magic, especially since children from ordinary families are prohibited from doing so, and it is new to them. Syl was the first to create a weapon, and she immediately became interested. What if it breaks? But the master laughed and said that both the weapon and the labyrinth were recreated using magic. Therefore, it cannot be damaged while inside. The girl became curious again. Is it possible to summon some kind of animal instead of a blade? Rebarian replied that they could create a doll or even a golem. But, alas, it will not be possible to summon anything living. Laud became interested, but why can't we create living beings? The master replied that there was a restriction on this magic. Giving life is a wonderful magic that ordinary people have. Gajas created a sword in the likeness of the one he had in his home, but unlike the old wooden sword, this one is real. He was very pleased with this and decided to share it with everyone. Each of the children managed to create a sword for themselves, but since they had never held a real weapon other than a wooden one, they would need time to master their blades. Despite the fact that everyone created only swords for themselves, Eugene was the only one who took care of his protection and created a shield for himself. Till asked the boy what they would do when they met in the labyrinth. Will they really have to fight? Eugene had no idea that they were allowed to fight each other. But since this test is part of the blood inheritance ritual, there are practically no restrictions. The patriarch said, "However, cooperation and common sense are very important. After all, the Lionharts are one family." Till looked at Eugene and was glad that he was called part of the family. At one time, the boy was not as happy as she was. He didn't want to be in the same family as the girl after everything that had happened. This was a surprise to him. The master said that since they were done with the weapons, they could proceed to the next stage. It was necessary to wear a necklace around the neck. It will be connected with their consciousness. If they experience too much stress during the test, the necklace will react immediately. In this case, Roberian will consider this a dangerous situation and will arrive in person. Eugene guessed that this thing should prevent all sorts of accidents. The master added that if someone begins to doubt that they will not be able to complete the test, they need to put their finger on the necklace and call for help. This way they will be able to leave the maze without any risks. Afterwards, he said that the briefing was over, and he asked the children to go into the cave. They all enter the labyrinth from one portal, but the moment the participants step onto the other side, they are scattered throughout the labyrinth. Finally, before entering, Kill wished Eugene good luck. The boy reciprocated. He immediately entered the labyrinth without fear of what might be there. As soon as the boy was on the other side of the portal, he saw an empty and long corridor in which it was too dark. In his past life, he quite often had to wander through labyrinths. Therefore, the boy did not doubt himself at all. Looking at the ceiling, he saw that it was completely blocked. And because of the walls, the space is quite narrow. Long weapons won't work well there. That's why Eugene chose the sword and shield. He knew that this standard set fits almost any situation. However, he doubted that there would be any problems with clearing the labyrinth, since it was prepared for children. He moved along this dark corridor in search of adventure, straight ahead for victory. Other children have already encountered problems in the form of the slug monster. This is the simplest monster of the maze. But not everyone coped with it. Children from ordinary families had never encountered this before, and it was difficult for them. And they called for help, taking the necklace and calling the master. Just an hour after the test began, 3 of those completing the maze gave up. The patriarch told the children who failed the test that they could rest. Meanwhile, the master and Gillard watched the other children through magical spheres that showed everything that was happening in the maze. They watched Gajis being attacked by goblins. This was his first test. His movements seem a little stiff, but he did a good job. He didn't have much difficulty with monsters. Desiree also had to deal with the slugs. She is very dexterous and agile. Her tactic was to hide from them. She also realized that they were difficult to defeat with melee weapons, so she decided to stick to the plan. She has very well-developed intuition. She prioritizes moving through the labyrinth over fighting monsters. Sane and her sister cheated even before the start of the passage. Their mother got them maps of the labyrinths that should help them. From them, they learned several strategies for moving through the maze and avoiding traps. Knowing where the trap was located, he found a stone, which he threw to where the trap mechanism worked. He is too careful, and thanks to this he successfully passed all the traps, what the patriarch and the master liked. Watching Tasil, who was still at the stage with the evil goblin, they saw how well and quickly she completed her task. But then there was a dead end. It looked like she would have to return to the last fork, which would delay her quite a lot at this stage. Syl has a fairly flexible way of thinking, and yet she lacks experience. While watching Laud, they saw how he was fascinated by the monster created by magic. But this does not mean that he will regret it. He, of course, dealt with the goblin, but the master noticed that the magic had greatly clouded his mind. Gillard said that from early childhood he was crazy about her, when he was taught by a capital professor, but it didn't lead to anything. Rebarian wondered how a boy who had been interested in magic since childhood did not become a magician at an early age. Gillard said it was all because his mother influenced his decision to become the next patriarch of the family. This title is incompatible with his passion for magic. Although magic provides many benefits, the path to studying it is very thorny, the master answered. Although the patriarch wanted him to be a magician, my father believed that if there was still a piece of his former passion left in him, then he could not refuse the prospect of becoming a student in the magic tower. The master did not know what to answer the patriarch, but he saw great potential in the boy. Without thinking twice, he said that he could take Laud under his wing out of respect for the patriarch, but if it turned out that the boy was not suitable for the role of a student, he would not be able to do anything about it. Gillard did not want to force Rebarian. He just wanted his son to devote himself to what he really likes. In addition, Laud respected the wise Sina even more than his own ancestor, Vermouth the Great. Rebarian said that he was exactly the same. When reading the entries about the adventures of the warrior Vermouth, it was much more interesting for him to immerse himself in the history of Mrs. Senna. He liked that she knew how to find a way out of hopeless situations. Gillard said he also read those notes as a child. But his favorite hero, in truth, was neither Vermouth the Great nor Sina Mudra. Then the master wondered, if one of the most beloved characters of many is not his priority, then who could it be? As soon as he started talking about who his favorite character was, he noticed something. While they were talking, Eugene was confronted by the biggest troll possible. Despite the fact that the troll was many times larger than the boy, this did not frighten him at all, and he attacked him from all sides with lightning speed. They were so shocked by what they saw that they were speechless. Eugene easily dealt with such a giant and continued to walk further through the labyrinth to victory. Gillard was delighted. It seems he has a new favorite. The boy not only did not lose his head, but was also able to confidently defeat such a strong monster. The patriarch did not understand how a 13-year-old boy could do such a thing. The master said that trolls are definitely not the ones you would like to fight. If possible, most people would use a trap against them, and this individual, in addition, was larger than usual. He didn't understand how the boy had dealt with him. The patriarch praised the boy, saying that although he is very young, he has exceptional talent. Rebarian said talented children like Eugene are called geniuses. Gages was already at the stage with the evil troll. This stage was hard for him. The monster attacked him several times, but the young man did not give up. Embittered and tortured, Gages ran screaming at the giant and deprived him of his limbs. The monster fell, and the boy, climbing on top of it, plunged his blade into it. After defeating the troll, his body, of which he was so proud, was covered in wounds. He had fallen into several traps before this test. Given his injuries, he discounted the strength of the other contenders, doubting that they had passed this stage. Having received too many wounds, his body could not stand it, and he could no longer walk, falling to the ground. Seeing the troll, Sign was confused. He did not understand where such a strong monster could come from. He understood that he alone could not cope with such a strong creature. Sane decided to outwit the thug by throwing a stone to the side and then calmly run away, after which he met Syl. They started from different entry points, but they all intersected exactly. This means that the center of the maze is already close. Sane told his little sister that she needed to follow him so that she wouldn't get lost. She was glad of this, because together it was much easier. He was still ashamed in front of Kill for losing the duel to Eugene. and he wanted to use the ritual to take revenge on him in the labyrinth. Sane told his sister that if she wanted to know anything, she could ask. She became interested and asked him, since the whole labyrinth is an illusion, could there be different monsters living there? He replied that this was an obvious question, and there could be many creatures out there. She said there might be ghosts there, too. Tin didn't know if there were ghosts there and then asked if Tisin was afraid of them. The boy told her not to worry. It doesn't matter who is there. He will defeat any opponent in one blow. But in front of him was someone's hand, which was peeking around the corner. It seems to be a humanoid monster, another creature that will have to be fought. Her frightening glowing eyes looked straight at the boy. It was just Desiree. The boy was so scared that he squealed like a girl. What can't be said about his sister? Because she noticed her right away. He asked her how she ended up there and why she dared to scare him. She answered the boy that she herself was scared by his scream. Tisin didn't understand why there was so much blood on her. He thought that she deliberately scared him and then wanted to kill him. But she said she just got caught and hit her head. Since the ambush failed and Sane was too aggressive, she decided to flee. He was worried that because of this girl, he would again disgrace himself in front of Tasil. Sane was offended by her for acting so vilely, and he told his sister that he needed to catch up with Desira. Her plan failed. She understood that she definitely couldn't cope with two, but the girl hoped to meet Gajis under Desiree's feet. She realized that there was a trap under her, and she began to run even faster. Because of her ability to run fast, she went through it calmly. Sane told his sister that the distance was too great for them to jump over this pit. We need to find another way. But Sil replied that she did not want to look for another path. Sane was ashamed of being embarrassed in front of his sister, and henceforth he decided that he would not allow this to happen. It would be better to save more magic for the boss fight. He had one idea. They decided to use magic to jump over this trap. They had no other choice. Sane shouted for Kill to quickly catch up. He said that he would catch her. But, as the boy suspected, she did not want help since she is more independent. Sane and Tasil's pursuit of Desira continued for some time, until they finally reached the center of the labyrinth. They didn't expect to get to the boss so quickly. It was a huge, giant bull. But suddenly Eugene's voice sounded behind Sin. He wondered why they came running together. This unexpected appearance surprised Zane. He became curious what Eugene was doing here. The boy was wondering who would get there before him. Zil, how Eugene waited for whoever would come first, if he was the first. Desiree asked him, since he decided to wait, if that meant that he had decided to accept their proposal with Gadgets. But that wasn't why he waited. And in order to give them a chance to try their strength. After all, he was sure that he would defeat the monster alone. The boy said it wouldn't be fair to them if he killed him, considering how much effort they put into training. Seeing that Eugene was so self-confident and devalued them, the boy told them, it didn't look like the boss would attack unless they provoked him, which means he's just waiting. He suggested that everyone fight him in order. The first will be Desira, then Sane and Sil. Desira asked the boy if he was sure he wanted to fight the boss alone. But Eugene noticed that she was hurt, and told her that if she doubted herself, she could just refuse. She was confident that she could resist the giant boss, and went first. Tin became interested and asked Eugene why he didn't fight the Minotaur himself, but he wanted them to realize how weak they were in battle. Sane told him that he would not have such an opportunity since he would defeat the boss before it was Eugene's turn. Eugene replied that if he really succeeded, he would treat him with the deepest respect. Sane said that he would do this just to hear these words. Previously, Sane had only seen this monster in books. It appears in almost all stories related to labyrinths. It's even bigger than he could have imagined. Even a troll doesn't seem so huge compared to him. However, this is just the size. Compared to a troll or an ogre, a minotaur does not look so terrifying. As soon as she approached him, he stood up and waited for her attack. He will be really hard to beat. He was so huge compared to her that Desiree did not understand how she should kill such a monster. But she pulled herself together, realizing that there was no turning back. And you need to use all your skills against him. After dodging his attack, she planned to sneak up to his limb to attack. Making her way closer to his leg, she attacked him with a spear, but his skin is too tough for her weapon to penetrate. After which the monster grabbed the girl. She already thought that she was finished, but he spared her, simply threw her into the starting area towards the entrance. Kill became curious and asked Eugene why the Minotaur didn't kill her. He answered because it is all an illusion. The moment the monster grabbed her, the fight was already considered over.